podcast for B1 and B2 level students, mastering connectors with the Forgotten Backpack story. Hey everyone! Have you ever read a story that just flows, where every moment feels connected, every twist builds tension, and everything just clicks? Well, that's not by accident. It all comes down to connectors, those small but powerful words that shape how a story unfolds. Today, we're breaking it all down using the Forgotten Backpack, a simple but surprisingly effective story. And to explore how connectors make it work, we've got a great conversation coming up, followed by some interactive activities to test what you've learned. We'll look at how words like even though, as a result, and despite don't just link sentences, they add meaning, emotion, and depth. So, whether you're a writer, a student, or just someone who loves a good story, stick around. Let's dive in.
All right, welcome back everyone. We're diving deep today, getting into the nitty-gritty of storytelling.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at how authors use language to, make their stories really pack a punch.
And the story we're tackling is called The Forgotten Backpack. Sounds pretty simple, right? But trust me, there's more to it than meets the eye. We're going to uncover how this story uses some sneaky little things called connectors to emphasize key moments and, just make it a more impactful read.
That's right. It's about understanding the nuances of language, how those tiny choices can make a big difference.
Exactly. And for all of you listening, think about how this can level up your own writing. Help you make your stories more engaging, more exciting, more everything.
Absolutely. It's all about those aha moments, those little discoveries that make you a more insightful reader and a more powerful writer.
Okay, so let's set the scene. The Forgotten Backpack is about this student, Adam, who's got a super important exam coming up.
Yeah, classic high-stakes situation. We've all been there, right?
Yeah. Oh, totally. He studied all night, but he's still a nervous wreck. And then, in his rush to get to school, let's just say things don't exactly go according to plan.
Right, those mornings where everything seems to go wrong. And that's where the author's use of connectors really comes into play, to emphasize those feelings of stress and urgency.
Now, I gotta admit, when I first heard about connectors, I was like, what are those? So break it down for us. What exactly are connectors?
Okay, so think of connectors as those little bridges in a story. They connect different ideas, show the relationship between them, whether it's cause and effect, contrast, or just a shift in time or perspective.
Okay, that makes sense. They're kind of like the glue that holds the story together.
Yeah, exactly. And they can be single words or even phrases. The Forgotten Backpack uses a bunch of them, like even though, as soon as, due to, those kinds of words.
So it's not just about using fancy vocabulary. It's about choosing the right words to connect the dots and guide the reader.
Precisely. So let's look at some examples from the story to see how these connectors work their magic. There's one sentence that reads, "Even though he had gone over his notes the night before, he still felt nervous." What do you think? What jumps out at you there?
Well, it's like, even though he prepared, he's still freaking out. You could really feel the tension there, right? That even though Espinara is doing a lot of work.
Yes. It's highlighting that contrast between his preparation and his emotional state. It's subtle, but it adds this whole layer of depth.
It's like we get this little glimpse into Adam's mind, his inner struggle.
And that's the power of connectors. They can really amp up the emotional impact of a story. Okay, here's another one. As a result of the delay, he turned up at school just 5 minutes before the exam started. How does that, as a result of, hit you?
Oh man, that one just ratchets up the tension. You can almost feel Adam's panic, right?
It creates this cause and effect chain. The delay directly leads to him almost being late. It makes the story feel more, immediate.
Yeah, like everything's happening so fast.
Yeah.
But imagine if the author had used something like, despite this setback, what would that do?
That would change the whole feel. Instead of panic, it would be more about Adam's determination. Like, okay, things went wrong, but I'm not giving up. It shows you how a single word can completely shift the tone.
Wow. So it's not just about grammar, it's about storytelling. You're like a word magician, pulling all these strings behind the scenes.
Well, let's say it's about using language in a deliberate way, and that's something we can all do, right? Okay, one more example. Despite the situation, he decided to bring it up with his teacher. What do you think the despite is doing there?
Like, even though everything's falling apart, Adam's still going to try. It shows his courage, his resilience.
Exactly. And by using despite, the author is subtly encouraging us to admire that quality in Adam. It's like saying, hey, this character's facing a tough situation, but he's not backing down. Let's see what he does.
So connectors aren't just about connecting ideas. They're connecting with the reader emotionally. They're making us feel something.
Precisely. And that's what makes storytelling so powerful.
Okay, so we've talked about contrast, cause and effect, resilience, but there are tons of other connectors out there, and each one creates a different effect. Think about words like however, whereas, consequently. The list goes on.
It's like having this whole secret language toolkit for writers.
Exactly. And becoming aware of these tools can make you a more critical reader, A&D, a more effective writer.
This has been an awesome deep dive, so much to think about. Any final words of wisdom before we wrap up?
I'd say pay attention to connectors in everything you read. Articles, stories, even emails. See how they shape the meaning and impact the way you feel about what you're reading. It can be pretty eye-opening.
It's like suddenly you're seeing all these hidden connections in language, like a secret code.
Well, thanks for cracking the code for us. I know I'm going to be looking at my own writing a lot differently now. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Now it's time for you to practice by doing some exercises and questions about the conversation. Part 1. Fill in the gap sentences. Read the next sentences from the Forgotten Backpack story and choose the best connector from the options in parentheses to complete the sentence. 1. Adam had studied all night. However, or, as a result, or, despite, he still felt nervous before the exam. 2. The bus was delayed, so that, or, due to, or, whereas, heavy traffic, making Adam even more anxious. 3. Even though, or, because, or, in order to, he had prepared, he felt like he had forgotten everything. 4. He searched his bag and, as soon as, or, in contrast, or, despite this, realized his backpack wasn't there. 5. As a result, or, nevertheless, or, similarly, he had to ask his teacher for help.
Part 2. Discuss and reflect. 1. How do different connectors change the meaning of a sentence? 2. Which connector from the Forgotten Backpack do you think was the most effective? Why? 3. Can you think of a real-life situation where using the right connector would change how someone understands your message? Take your time to listen and do these exercises. Remember, the practice is the key to learning. Pause the video until you have finished and then you can see the answers.
Part 1. Fill in the gap sentences. Answers. 1. Answer. Adam had studied all night, however, he still felt nervous before the exam. 2. Answer. The bus was delayed due to heavy traffic, making Adam even more anxious. 3. Answer. Even though he had prepared, he felt like he had forgotten everything. 4. Answer. He searched his bag and as soon as he realized his backpack wasn't there. 5. Answer. As a result, he had to ask his teacher for help.
Part 2. Discuss and reflect. Answers. 1. How do different connectors change the meaning of a sentence? Answer. May vary. Students should discuss how different connectors shift meaning, add emphasis, or create contrast. 2. Which connector from the Forgotten Backpack do you think was the most effective? Why? Sample answer. Even though it was effective because it highlighted Adam's struggle between studying and still feeling nervous. 3. Can you think of a real-life situation where using the right connector would change how someone understands your message? Sample answer. In an apology email, saying, even though I was late, I still finished the project, versus, because I was late, I couldn't finish the project, changes how responsible the writer seems.
And that's the power of connectors. Small words, big impact. Keep an eye out for them in your reading and writing, and see how they transform your storytelling. See you next time.
Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content.
Easy English.